There's a quiet kind of courage that often goes unnoticed. It doesn't shout, doesn't parade itself in public. It simply wakes up each morning, makes a cup of tea, and faces another day. Alone. Imagine this. A woman in her 60s, living in a small apartment. The phone doesn't ring. The holidays pass without family dinners. Friends from earlier chapters have drifted away, some lost to time, others to distance or misunderstanding. And yet, she is smiling. Not out of denial. Not because she's pretending, but because something within her has settled, grown wise, grown full. This isn't the story you often hear. Society tells us that connection is everything, that joy comes only when we're surrounded by people, laughter, and noise. But for some women, a surprising truth unfolds after 60. Happiness isn't always found in the company of others. It's found in the quiet, in the stillness, in the rediscovery of self. Maybe you felt it too. That tug of loneliness. That echo in the room where conversation used to be. That fear of growing older without the safety net of relationships. But here's a thought that may challenge what you believe. Could solitude, when embraced instead of feared, actually become a source of strength and even joy? Today, we're stepping into the secret lives of women who defy expectations, who have no family nearby, no constant circle of friends, and yet are living fully, sometimes more freely than ever before. Their stories might surprise you. Their quiet wisdom might just stay with you long after this video ends. Because sometimes, the loudest kind of happiness is the one that doesn't need to be heard. Welcome to Comfort Corner, where we explore the real, raw, and often untold stories of life after 60. Today's video dives into a topic that many shy away from, but more women than ever are quietly living this truth. Having no close friends or family nearby, yet still finding peace, purpose, and even joy. If you're over 60, or heading there, and you've ever felt like your social circle has shrunk, like the silence has grown louder, or like the world has forgotten your name, this episode is for you. But this isn't a story of sadness. It's a story of rediscovery, of freedom, of the quiet confidence that comes when you finally stop living for others and start living for yourself. We'll uncover how some women are turning solitude into strength, and how you can too. Whether you're navigating retirement, grieving a loss, or simply asking, "What's next for me?" you'll find powerful insights and maybe even a new sense of hope. Let's begin. Most people hear the phrase, "no friends, no family," and immediately think of loneliness. But for some women over 60, solitude isn't a burden. It's a quiet kind of liberation. After decades of caring for others, raising children, supporting a partner, managing households, many women find that for the first time they have space to breathe. There's no more pressure to answer to others, no expectations to fulfill roles that may have drained them. And while the initial silence can be uncomfortable, it often gives way to something deeper. Freedom. Freedom to wake up when they want, to spend a Sunday morning in bed with a book, to eat what they love, to decorate their home the way they've always dreamed. Small things, maybe, but deeply personal. One woman in our interview said, "When my daughter moved away and my husband passed, I thought I'd never stop crying. But then one morning, I realized no one needed me. And oddly, I felt light. I was free to be just me. I hadn't felt that in decades." That freedom can become a fertile ground for self-rediscovery. Without the noise of relationships, many women finally hear their own voice again. They reconnect with their own values, desires, and curiosities. Solitude, when chosen or accepted, can evolve from emptiness into empowerment. It's not about rejecting people. It's about reclaiming yourself. For many women, life before 60 was defined by roles: daughter, wife, mother, caregiver, employee. But what happens when those roles fade? For some, it brings grief. But for others, it brings an unexpected opportunity, a chance to finally meet yourself again. After years of putting others first, women over 60 often find they have time, real, uninterrupted time, for the first time in decades. And in that space, something beautiful happens. Old dreams return. Some take out their paintbrushes after 30 years. Others learn an instrument, take up gardening, or write poetry. Not because anyone asked them to, not to impress or provide, but because they want to. Because the spark that was buried under responsibilities still lives inside. One woman shared, "I used to love photography when I was 20, but life got in the way. At 64, I bought a second-hand camera, walked to the park, and started capturing light again. I felt 20. Not in body, but in spirit." It's not just about hobbies. Rediscovering the self is also about asking deeper questions. What do I believe in now? What brings me peace? What kind of woman do I want to be in this new chapter? This isn't a second youth. It's something wiser, more grounded. A renaissance of the self, not loud or flashy, but deeply personal and quietly joyful. And for women without family or friends around, this rediscovery isn't a distraction from loneliness. It's a path through it. A reminder that even without outer connections, the connection to yourself is still the most vital of all. When most people picture a fulfilling life, they imagine family dinners, grandchildren laughing, or lifelong friends dropping by for tea. But for many women over 60, that vision doesn't match reality. And that's okay. Not having traditional relationships doesn't mean a life is empty. It just means it needs to be built differently. Some women find connection in places they never expected. Local libraries, senior yoga classes, hobby clubs, and community gardens often become quiet sanctuaries for interaction, where there are no expectations, no history, and no judgment. Others turn to online communities, where women across the globe share their stories, cheer each other on, and offer comfort in moments of silence. And connection doesn't always have to come from other people. For some, it's a rescued dog or a cat curled up at the end of the bed. For others, it's the ritual of watering plants every morning, tending to something alive and growing. These small acts create emotional bonds, offer purpose, and provide a kind of companionship that feels steady, even sacred. One woman told us, "My children don't visit. My friends have passed. But every morning my dog waits for me at the foot of the bed. He needs me. I need him. That's enough." And then there are the moments of unexpected kindness, smiling at a neighbor, chatting with a barista, waving to the mail carrier. These micro-connections, though brief, form the threads of a life that's still rich in human touch. Relationships don't need to look like they used to. They just need to feel real, safe, and true, no matter how small. Society has long told a dangerous story, that being alone, especially as a woman, is a problem to be fixed. You've probably heard it. She never married? That's so sad. She lives by herself? Poor thing. Or the worst of all, she must be lonely. But the truth is, being alone is not the same as being lonely. And for many women over 60, solitude is not a punishment. It's a choice, a form of peace, even a path to self-mastery. The stigma around solitude often comes from fear. People fear being forgotten, irrelevant, or unseen. But women who live alone and thrive are proof that visibility doesn't require a spotlight, and fulfillment doesn't need a full house. Think about how media portrays aging women. Desperate for companionship, clinging to family, incomplete without a partner. These stereotypes are not only outdated, they're harmful. They make women feel ashamed for living differently, for choosing their own rhythm over tradition. One woman put it best. "When I stopped needing to explain why I live alone, I started enjoying it. I no longer apologize for my peace." The world may still carry old expectations, but more and more women are breaking the mold. They're not defined by who they live with, but by how they live, with intention, grace, and quiet power. So let's rewrite the story. Being alone doesn't mean you've been left behind. Sometimes, it means you've finally stepped into your own life, fully, freely, and without apology. What does fulfillment look like when no one else is watching? For many women over 60 living alone, it doesn't come from grand achievements or public praise. It comes from something simpler, quieter, Deeper. It's the calm of a slow morning, the comfort of drinking tea without rushing, the deep exhale after realizing you have nothing to prove to anyone anymore. There's a shift that happens when external roles fade and no one is depending on you. That space, once filled with responsibility, becomes fertile ground for inner peace. Some women begin meditating or journaling. Others start taking long, aimless walks, just to listen to birdsong or feel the breeze. These aren't trivial habits. They're acts of presence, of learning to live inside the moment rather than outside of it. And then there's joy. Not loud, ecstatic joy, but the kind that shows up unexpectedly. A perfectly ripe mango on a hot day, the satisfaction of finishing a puzzle or knitting a scarf, the soft light that fills the kitchen at 4 p.m. Moments like these become sacred when you're not distracted by chaos or comparison. One woman told us, "For the first time in my life, my days are mine. I used to think fulfillment would come from others appreciating me. Now, I find it in appreciating myself." This is the secret that often goes untold. Happiness doesn't have to be shared to be real. Peace doesn't require a witness. And a life lived quietly, with intention and grace, can be richer than one lived in noise. If you're watching this and feeling uncertain, maybe your days are quiet in a way that feels too quiet, or you're still adjusting to life without constant companionship, you are not alone. Many women over 60 go through this transition. And while no one's path is exactly the same, there are gentle steps you can take to begin finding peace and purpose again. 1. Start small. Stay consistent. Begin by creating just one daily ritual that centers you. It could be morning stretches, writing 3 lines in a journal, or stepping outside for fresh air. These tiny acts build a rhythm that anchors your day. 2. Feed your curiosity. Take a class. Try a craft. Read about something that intrigues you. Curiosity is a sign that your spirit is still awake, and following it is a quiet form of self-love. 3. Connect where it feels natural. You don't need a dozen friends. One warm conversation at the local market or a reply to a comment in an online group can be more meaningful than forced relationships. Let connections grow organically, at your pace. 4. Redefine what a full life means for you. Maybe your calendar isn't packed, but your heart feels calm. That counts. Your life doesn't need to mirror anyone else's to be beautiful or worthy. 5. Let go of guilt or shame. It's okay if your life looks different from what you expected. Different isn't wrong. In fact, it might be exactly what you need. One woman told us, "I used to see my solitude as a failure. Now I see it as a canvas. Every day, I get to decide what to paint on it. So if you're walking this path, know this. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply in a new season, and there is still so much beauty ahead." In a world that often equates happiness with having a house full of people and a calendar full of plans, some women are quietly rewriting the rules. They live without partners, without children nearby, sometimes without close friends. And yet, they wake up with purpose. They go to sleep in peace. They've discovered that solitude doesn't have to be empty. It can be sacred. That fulfillment doesn't always come from being needed, but from learning to need yourself. These women remind us that life after 60 isn't a closing. It's a clearing. A chance to start fresh, live slower, and finally deeply come home to yourself. So whether you're surrounded by people or sitting in silence, remember, your life is still your own. Your story is still unfolding. And happiness? It might be closer than you think. If this video spoke to you, if you saw even a small part of yourself in these stories, know that you're not invisible. You're not forgotten. And you're certainly not alone. We believe women over 60 deserve to be heard, seen, and celebrated. Not for who they were, but for who they are becoming. This is your time, and there's no right or wrong way to live it. So tell us, what brings you peace these days? What part of your story are you reclaiming? Share in the comments. Your words might be the light someone else needs today. If this message moved you, consider liking, sharing, or subscribing. It helps this small but powerful community grow, and reminds more women that life doesn't end at 60. Sometimes it truly begins. Until next time, take care of yourself, with softness, with courage, and with joy.